If you're thinking about relocating to Greenville, South Carolina by the end of 2024 or in 2025, then you need to watch this video. In this video, we are going to talk about the top 4 suburbs of Greenville right now and why. Let's do it. So if you want to move to Greenville but you don't want to be in the city, you need to know which suburbs you need to be looking in. As someone who helps a number of families every year relocate to Greenville, I've learned a thing or two about the suburbs around Greenville and the pros and cons to each. So what we're going to talk about in this video is Simpsonville, the east side of town, Powdersville, and Travelers Rest. And if and when you start looking to move here, please do me a favor, email me or shoot me a text at my cell phone below. I would love to be the realtor that you choose to work with. As always, my friends, my name is Will Sawyer, your friend in real estate here in the upstate of South Carolina. And it's our goal with this channel that we are your #1 resource for all the things that you need to know about your relocation to the upstate. And if you like this information, do me a favor, subscribe to our channel. That way you can follow along in future videos and not miss anything about the latest and greatest with Greenville. Let's do it. So first on the list, and it's no surprise, Simpsonville. So Simpsonville is just south of Greenville along that 385 corridor. Some of Simpsonville is on the right side of 385, some of it's on the left side of 385. It borders Malden and it borders Fountain Inn. It also borders Piedmont and it borders Woodruff. Simpsonville covers a big old area. And why do I think you should choose Simpsonville? Well, you're in the path of progress. There's a number of awesome vendors in downtown Simpsonville. And not to mention, Simpsonville has a super cute main street in downtown that a lot of these other suburbs just don't have. Simpsonville is going to give you this real communal type feel, this quintessential small town America type vibe as you ride through it. There's a number of great restaurants to eat at, like Farm Fresh Fast, like Sidewall Pizza, like Willie Taco. All of those are right there along Main Street. There's plenty of places to grab a drink after work, like 1885 Tap Room, like the Warehouse at Vaughn's. There's live music opportunities and event spaces in Simpsonville as well, like at the Warehouse at Vaughn's, where small local bands will play on the weekends, all the way to Heritage Park Amphitheater, where big headline artists will play, and big events throughout the year like the Greenville Country Music Fest or Voyage Music Festival will happen. So there's no shortage of entertainment here in Simpsonville throughout the year. There's a number of places to worship, a number of places to shop, and there's no shortage of residential and commercial developments here in this area also. Now, like I just mentioned, Simpsonville's in the path of progress. It's along this 385 corridor. BMW happens to be one of the biggest employers in all of the upstate. A lot of BMW's vendors are located along 385, and there's a lot of other industrial companies that are located along 385. So if you need to commute, whether it be to Greenville or to Greer or just to work somewhere along that 385 corridor, you're only going to be at most probably about a 30-minute commute into work. Now there's a lot of residential development here in Simpsonville. A lot of Simpsonville was developed before the 2008-2009 housing market crash. However, since that, Simpsonville has been developed even more, and there's still a lot of new construction in that Simpsonville Fountain Inn area right now. And whether it's an existing community or whether it's a new community, there's communities in Simpsonville for all types of people. There's big communities like Neely Farm that have amenities like tennis courts and basketball courts and pools. And they're streets lined by oak trees because, you know, the neighborhood's 25 years old. There's also communities that are gated, like the cottages at Harrison Bridge. A lot of the homes that are built in there are primarily one-level living. It's right behind Publix, so if you want to go make your early morning grocery run, you're only about a 4-minute drive from Publix. And everything in between, whether you're a buyer looking for a $250,000 starter home or you're a luxury buyer looking for a multi-million-dollar estate, you can find it here in Simpsonville. And when looking at real estate prices over the last 30 days here in Simpsonville, the average price of a home sold has been about $380,000, which is right there consistent with the county as a whole. So next up on my top 4 suburbs around Greenville, South Carolina is the east side. So this is that space between Pelham Road and Wade Hampton Boulevard. When I think of the east side, I think of Pelham Road, I think of Howell Road, I think of Hudson Road, I think of Brushy Creek Road, I think of Wade Hampton Boulevard. Now, this has long been standing as one of the most desirable areas in all of Greenville. A lot of it was developed in the 60s and 70s, so you'll find a number of older properties here on this side of town, like a number of brick ranches or a number of tri-levels, but you'll also see a lot of newer communities, or at least communities that are within 20 years or newer. But that's not the only thing you see on the east side of Greenville. You also see a lot of communities developed in the 90s and the early 2000s, a lot of traditional 2-story brick homes or brick fronts with vinyl or hardy board plank siding, or communities that are all brick but have a good mix of traditional 2-story and single level living. If you want convenience to things, then the east side is the place that you want to live. If you need convenience to grocery stores, there's a number of grocery stores along Wade Hampton Boulevard and Pelham Road. So a lot of the clients that buy in this area want convenience to, say, downtown Greenville and the interstate. Well, the east side of town is smack dab right in the middle of those two. We're about 15 minutes from downtown Greenville, and we're about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to Interstate 85. Not to mention that the airport is just above the east side, so if you needed to get to the airport, let's say within 10 or 15 minutes to hop on a flight, you could easily be at the GSP airport, which is the #1 small international airport in the entire country, within, say, 15 minutes. Now, when I think of the east side, I can't help but think of reputable schools and access to healthcare also. So I have a listing in an awesome community on the east side of town in Carisbrook, which has a number of amenities, including a neighborhood pond. And from Carisbrook to get to downtown Greenville, it's only about 15 minutes. To get to the interstate, it's about 15 minutes. And to get to the GSP airport, it's about 15 minutes. Now, a lot of my clients who buy property on the east side of town want access to great schools, and they want access to great health care. So Prisma, the most comprehensive provider here in the state of South Carolina, is located right here in the Upstate. They have one of their campuses on Pelham Road called Patewood Medical Campus. So from this house and from generally the east side, you're going to be about 10 to 15 minutes away from Patewood. So if you need access to specialists, if you need access to an emergency room, and if you're about to deliver a baby, this is probably where you're going to go. You're going to be a very quick car ride to Patewood Medical Campus if you live over on the east side. And if you want to be zoned for top-rated schools in all of South Carolina, the east side is a place that you're going to want to look at. Schools like Wade Hampton High School, the #1 public high school in the county. High schools like Riverside, which have been named one of the top high schools in the entire state. And elementary schools like Pelham Road Elementary, Mitchell Road Elementary, and more. And when looking at real estate prices over the last 3 months here on the east side of town, the average price for a home sold on this side of town is about $410,000. All right, so the third suburb on my list that doesn't get talked about a lot for whatever reason is Powdersville. So I included this on my list as the top 4 suburbs. It offers something different that a lot of these other suburbs don't. So in my opinion, Powdersville has everything that you're gonna need on a weekly basis right there on 153. And if it's not there on 153, you're only about a 10-minute drive, maybe a 15-minute drive to anything in Greenville that you're gonna need. So Powdersville is just southwest of Greenville along the 85 corridor. The one thing about Powdersville though, is that there's no main street. There's no town itself. It's really just kind of like a pass through on 153. It's more like an area. So if you live in Powdersville, you're gonna be driving on Highway 153 a lot. It's a big 4-lane road. It's got a number of stoplights, but traffic is always free flowing there. If you need access to the interstate, you're only going to be about 15 minutes from there. And if you want to come downtown Greenville, you're only 15 minutes and about 5 stoplights into downtown Greenville. Now, Powdersville doesn't get a lot of attention, probably because it doesn't have a downtown feel like, say, Simpsonville does. But you're only about 5 minutes from easily if you wanted to go over and have a meal at a local restaurant or jump into Greenville to have an awesome meal on the weekends. Now, what Powdersville is known for is its school system. People will move into Powdersville just to put their kids in the Powdersville elementary, middle, and high school system. And if you live in Powdersville and you're not zoned for Powdersville, you're probably going to be zoned for Wren, which is even better news. People will move into Wren School District just so that their kids can go to Wren. And if you're looking for things to do in Powdersville, like I said, you're close to Easley, which is close to Pickens, which is close to the mountains. So you're a really short car drive to the mountains. The Saluda River runs through Powdersville, so you have access to the river as well with a couple kayak launches if you wanted to go kayak on the river. You're not far from Mad World, so every Halloween, this is South Carolina's #1 haunted house attraction right there in Powdersville. And if you needed to jump on the interstate to go to the airport, or to go to Woodruff Road, or go to Atlanta, or go to Charlotte, you're not far from the interstate either. So if you haven't considered Powdersville, I would highly recommend it. It provides a more laid-back lifestyle. There's a number of really nice communities in Powdersville, and I feel like you get a lot of bang for your buck there in Powdersville. And when looking at real estate trends in the Powdersville area, so for homes that have sold in the last 6 months zoned for Powdersville High School, the average price for a home sold is about $422,000. All right, and last but not least, this suburb deserves no introduction, Travelers Rest. Now, if you've been following this channel, you know I've talked about Travelers Rest a good bit. We have videos of me walking through downtown Travelers Rest, comparing Travelers Rest to Simpsonville. So we've talked a lot about Travelers Rest and the pros and cons to it. So be sure to check out those other videos if you haven't already. Now, Travelers Rest sits just north of downtown Greenville and just north of Furman University. Paris Mountain is directly east of Travelers Rest, and if you want access to nature, if you want access to the Swamp Rabbit Trail, if you want access to the mountains of western North Carolina, then this is probably the place that you're going to focus on. Now, what I think a lot of people don't realize about Travelers Rest before they come into town and actually do a tour of Travelers Rest with my tour guide, they think it's this big place with this big town that's this hustle and bustling type area. It's not. Travelers Rest really has one small main street. Now there's a lot of local places on that main street, so it gives a really authentic feel, and if that's what you're wanting, then certainly TR might be a place that you want to look at. But it's not this big small town like, say, Simpsonville is. If you're wanting a more hustling and bustling type of atmosphere, then Simpsonville would be a place to look at, or the east side would be a place to look at, or Powdersville possibly, but not Travelers Rest. Travelers Rest is going to be laid back. There's not as many neighborhoods in Travelers Rest. However, it's going to be quieter. You might actually get to see the stars at night in Travelers Rest, and you possibly could get a mountain view depending on where you are in TR. So I have some clients right now that just went under contract on a house in Travelers Rest, and the reasons that they were looking there is they wanted access to the Swamp Rabbit Trail. They didn't want to be far from downtown Greenville, and they wanted access to a cute downtown with local shops, local restaurants, and access to the mountains. And that is all encompassing of someone who's going to be looking for property there in Travelers Rest. If you want to go to the farmer's market on Saturday morning, if you want to go have dinner at a nice local restaurant, TR is going to be the place that you want to look at. Now, the one negative to Travelers Rest, in my opinion, compared to, say, Simpsonville or the east side of town, is if you need to get to Woodruff Road to go to Costco or Sam's or your big box stores for whatever reason, you are going to be farther away. So instead of 15 minutes, you're probably going to be about 30 minutes. So if your commute to these big shopping plazas is important, then that might be something you think about when considering buying a property in Travelers Rest. Now, when looking at real estate that has sold within the last 60 days in Travelers Rest, the average sold price for property here was about $510,000. So there it is, folks, the top 4 suburbs in and around Greenville, South Carolina. And to recap, that is Simpsonville, that's the east side of town, that's Powdersville, and that's Travelers Rest. Which of these towns do you think is best for you? I would love to hear that. So please email me at my email below or text me at my cell phone number below if you're thinking about relocating to Greenville in the next 6 months or in 2025. I would love to chat with you about your relocation to Greenville. So be sure to reach out to me. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. And until next time, stay safe. Well, this video is going to be about Greenville County, the upstate of South Carolina. Great thing to do and easily in the evening. I'm a local real estate expert here in the area. All the time, we're right behind me is a really cool place called Freight Yard.